welcome to the Case Study Part 1 overview. In this video, we will be covering Case Study Part 1, Sections 1, 2, and 3. We'll cover Units 1 and 2 and how to apply what you've learned. We'll go over the discussion board, which is where you go when you have questions. We'll go over the grading expectations and what to do to make a passing grade. And we'll also cover some of the case study frequently asked questions. First, let's review what makes up the case study. The case study is divided into 4 components. These components are building blocks, where you apply the information from a previous part in addition to the new material that you've learned. For instance, Part 1 is where you apply what you've learned in Units 1 and 2. Part 2 is where you will apply what you've learned in Units 3 and 4 in addition to Units 1 and 2. Part 3 is where you will apply what you've learned in Units 5 and 6 in addition to the previous units. And the final part is where you will apply what you've learned in Unit 7 in addition to all the units covered throughout the semester. For more information on availability periods, please check the schedule. Now let's go over what makes up Case Study Part 1. It is divided into 3 sections. In Section 1, you will review your client's financial information based on the financial data provided. You will then create a cash flow statement, balance sheet, and then calculate the financial ratios based off that financial data. Next, in Section 2, you will review the intake forms and money personality results from your clients and write a summary about how their money personalities and financial statements are linked. You will need to calculate and understand how to explain their financial ratios and how they relate to the benchmarks. And finally, in Section 3, you will use all the information that you have gathered and learned throughout the unit readings to provide your client with advice on where they can improve their financial health. You must then explain the techniques you will use to encourage the clients to start budgeting. Then you will create 3 questions to ask your clients in the next meeting. So you might be wondering, how am I supposed to accomplish all of that? Well, in Units 1 and 2, you've learned several different concepts that you can apply. In Unit 1, you've learned about your personal values, how your values and experiences influence your interaction with money. You've learned what your money personality is today. You wrote your money history paper where you reflected about your history with money and your family's beliefs and behaviors related to money. You provided ideas and strategies on how to improve your personal finances and listed the importance of understanding yourself before working with clients. In Unit 2, you learned about the different financial statements from a balance sheet and cash flow statement, and what information from each is used to calculate the financial ratios. You created a budget and analyzed your own financial health, and by analyzing your own financial health, you listed methods to better tracking expenses and how to improve your budget. All of these concepts can be applied to the Case Study Part 1. For Section 1 of the case study, you will utilize the information you learned in Unit 2. For Section 2 of the case study, you would apply the information that you learned from Unit 1. And for Section 3 of the case study, you would combine the information and apply the knowledge in the form of recommendations and questions based on your client's personal financial information. Say you have questions about the case study. Your first stop should be the case study discussion board. If you happen to send an email to the instructor via Blackboard, the instructor may direct you back to the case study discussion board. This is because other students may have the same question, and it's a great opportunity for everyone to learn. As you can see, there are 3 threads that have already been posted. Each section has its own thread, so you click on that thread and ask your question there. The bottom is for Section 1, the middle is for Section 2, and the top is for Section 3. This is a great opportunity to ask your peers, and if you know the answer, guide your peers in the right direction. What does this mean? This is not meant for you to share your answers or calculations. It's just a place you can go to ask questions and get guidance. Most likely, you aren't the only one with that question. This is monitored by the instructor, and the instructor will provide feedback if the guidance is headed in the right direction, or redirect you if it's not. So now you know what goes into the Case Study Part 1. Next, let's look over what are the case study grading expectations. The first, be clear and concise. What does this mean? When reading through your answers, it needs to be clear you understand what you are writing about and you explain your answer in a manner that is to the point. And next, use terms from the required readings. If you write about topics that aren't relevant or unrelated to the required reading materials, this could negatively impact your grade. When you use terms from the reading materials, it's evident that you've read the materials and understand the concepts. The next, cite your work. When you quote or use ideas that are not your own original ideas, you must give the credit to the creator of those ideas or that work. So if you're using information from the reading materials, which is what you're supposed to do, you must, and let me repeat, you must cite that reference. If you don't know how to do that, hang on for just a moment and I'll go over some resources. Next, you want to make sure and consider your audience. It is extremely important to consider your audience when writing a paper. If you're asked to write to your client, make sure to not use jargon or professional terms that an 8th grader wouldn't know. If you're asked to write to your supervisor or another professional, it's okay to use jargon if you use it appropriately. A rule of thumb: write as if an 8th grader was to read your paper and would be able to understand the content. And finally, answer all of the questions from the instructions in the rubric. At the end of the case study instructions, there's a checklist on what you need to include in your paper. Be sure to use this checklist when typing your paper. Also, when you begin to write your paper, it may be helpful to print out the rubric or have it pulled up so you can reference it while typing. By answering all the questions listed on the case study instructions, using the checklist at the end of the case study instructions, and follow the rubric, this will provide you with the best opportunity at successfully receiving a passing grade. Alright, so here we have case study frequently asked questions. So this first one is where students seem to struggle the most. We briefly talked about this, and here are those resources. I have never cited or created a reference page. Where do I start, or what is APA formatting? First, I'd like you to check the case study folder. All of these links are included in that folder. The first is for the Texas Tech Library on how you can cite your work. Second is for the Texas Tech University Writing Center, where they can assist you in how to format, check your grammar, and other writing tips. These two are for Texas Tech University students only. So if you're a Texas Tech student, take advantage of these awesome resources. And the third is for the Purdue OWL website, which is available to anyone. This website is an excellent resource to use when you need help on how to cite a certain book, article, website, or whatever reference you are using within your paper. You can also look up how to list your references, or your citations, on the last page of your paper. These references should be a separate page that only has your references for your paper listed on that page. Another question? Can I turn in my case study late? No. Case study assignments are due on the date stated on the schedule. If you happen to have a unique circumstance, please refer to the syllabus or contact the instructor via Blackboard. Be sure to check the schedule for availability periods and due dates. Finally, what if I turn in my paper in a PDF format? If you submit your assignment in a format other than what is stated on the instructions, this will result in a 0 for your grade. The reason we must have you submit your work as a Microsoft Word or Excel document is so that we can run it through Turnitin. A PDF, JPEG, or other format may not be compatible with how Turnitin processes these documents. Alright, so we've covered a lot today. Let's review what we've gone over. So we've gone over case study part 1 in each of the sections. We've reviewed units 1 and 2 and what you learned and how to apply those to the case study. We've gone over the discussion board, which is your first stop when you have questions. We've gone over grading expectations and what you can do to make a passing grade. And we've also reviewed the case study frequently asked questions. So that's a wrap for case study part 1 overview. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it was helpful. Remember, check the schedule for availability periods and due dates. Good luck!